Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah Perek Hey Halacha Yud Aleph. Yesh dvorim acherim she'en beklal chilul Hashem. There are other things that can be considered chilul Hashem. We'll go down to the Peirush. There's Eva HaMitzvahs on the negative commandments 63. The Rambam writes that the chilul Hashem, the desecration of God's name, can be found in three fashions. The first one he explained at the beginning of Halacha Yud. The second one he explains in Halacha Yud. And now he's telling us the third aspect. There are other things that are included in desecrating God's name. And this is if it was done by a great man and who's known in his outstanding religious qualities. Things that the people things that are done that people will talk about it because of his actions. Even though they're not sins, this is still considered desecrating God's name. Keep going, such as if he purchased something, he doesn't give the money right away. He has to have the money. And we see that the people who sell ask him for money, and he eludes them. And there are other things that could be included in desecrating God's name, etc. It could even be the fact instances where he purchased something and he doesn't give the money right away. We find the source of this in Yuma as it's brought down the case of Mishnah 86a. Here the Gemara questions, what's chilul Hashem? Rav says, if I buy meat from the butcher and I don't pay him right away. Abaye says that's only when it's not that the butcher will not ask for the money, but rather the purchaser brings the money to him. But if there is a system where you can write it down and the butcher collects, then it's permitted. Or he's always involved with jokes. We find this in the Mishnah and Demai, Beis and Gimel. It's brought in the case of Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says somebody who takes to be a chaver, which means somebody who's a Talmid Chochem and acts accordingly. He wants to be trusted to state witness that his fruits are tithed, because Am Ha'oretz is not believed on Ma'asos, has to accept that he will not make many vows or do too much joking. And the Bekesef Mishnah explains, even though that according to Tanakama he doesn't have to stop totally from jokes and vows to be believed on Ma'asos, but the Tanakama admits that Talmid Chochem has to be somebody who has a limitation to how comical he becomes, and if he's too much jokes, there's a chilul Hashem. We find Hilchos Deis, Perek Aleph Halacha Daled, when Rambam tells us the way that a person should go. He writes he should not be involved always in a high and joking fashion, and not depressed and always mournful, but he's happy all his life in a calm fashion with a happy face. And that's the way of wise men. Further, it's written there in Perek Beis Halacha Zayin, a person should not be full of mirth and scoffing, and not depressed and anguished, but rather he should be happy. So the Chachamim say that if too much joking and lightness of head cause a person to become involved in immorality, and they said one should not be unbound in mirth. And so they find in Oves of Akiva says mirth and lightheadedness causes a person to become immoral and act immorally. Or if he eats and drinks too much, amongst the common folk, and with them. This we find in Psochem 49a, and the Kesef Mishnah cites it as well. Every Talmid Chacham who eats too much, every place, he desecrates God's name and the name of his master, the name of his father, and he causes a bad name for himself and his children and his great-grandchildren forever. The Gesem Mishnah says from Loshen, it infers from what the Rambam says, only somebody who eats with an Amoretz in their house. But if they eat in his household, or he eats in their house but not with them, that he only stays there and he doesn't eat with them, then it's fine. There's no Chilul Hashem, there's no desecration with that. So too we find in Brochus 43b that a person should not sit in the gathering of people who are unlearned. Rambam warns in Hilchos Yesodei that a person should not eat in a store, not in the marketplace, only if it's desperately needed to do so, so that he should not be degraded in the eyes of the populace, and he should not eat with the uncouth. The Rambam continues, when he speaks, he doesn't speak in a fine fashion, so he doesn't receive people in a fine fashion. This too is found in Yuma. There they said on the Posuk, that you should love Hashem, that Hashem Shemayim, the name of heaven, should become beloved through your actions, that he should sit and study and serve Talmidei Chachomim, and he should be dealing in a calm fashion with the populace. What do the people say about him? Happy is his father that taught him Torah. Great is the lot of his teacher who taught him Torah. Woe to the people that didn't learn Torah. So and so that learned Torah, see how fine are his ways and how correct are his deeds. Regarding this person, the Posuk says, "Vayomer li avdi ato," and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, "You are my servant, Yisrael asher b'cho espoil." Yisrael, with whom I shall be proud. But somebody who learned and continues to study, and he serves Talmidei Chachomim, and he does not deal properly with the people, and he doesn't speak in a fine fashion with the populace, what do they say about him? Woe to that person who studied Torah, woe to his father who taught him Torah, woe to his master who taught him Torah. So-and-so who learned Torah, see how crooked are his ways and how despicable are his actions. And regarding him, the Pasuk says, when they say, these are the nation of Hashem, and from his land that they were sent out, because of their actions. But rather he's somebody who's always involved with arguments and angry. In those days we find Rambam goes into denigrating anger. He concludes, therefore, it was commanded that one distance oneself from anger until he will accustom himself that he won't feel even things that should cause him great anger. That's the best way, the way of the righteous, that they accept if people berate them, and they do not become upset. They hear their people saying shameful things about them, and they do not answer. And they do what they do for Hashem from love, and they're happy. Chas v'sholom, if they're tormented, and regarding them, the Pasuk says, and those who love Hashem are as great as when the the sun comes out in its glory. This includes other actions that a person can do that will not cause the Torah to be degraded. But if he does cause it to be degraded, there is a desecration of Hashem's name. Everything is according to the greatness of the wise man. He should be careful about himself. In Gemara Yuma it says, every Chacham gave a measure to Chilul Hashem according to his level. So I say, he should do more than he's obligated to do. What does it mean? Rambam writes in those days, somebody who's very careful with regard to himself, he will go away from that which is a midpoint, a little bit more so to this side, to that side. He's called a chassid. The first chassidim, the first righteous people, were those who would change their thoughts from the way, this middle way, from the two ends. There is times where he does it to one side, and there's times when he has to go to the other side. And that's called beyond that which is obligatory. One should be in the midpoint. And if he goes distance himself from an evil way of life to the other side, he's called, according to the Rambam, that's lefnim mishur hadin. That's going beyond that which is required. As long as he's not evil, he's fine. But if he becomes very good, that's even better. So too, if a person is very careful within himself, and his words are always in peace or calmness with people, and people enjoy being in his company, as we find in the Megillah, that everyone should be done according to their needs, and he accepts them with a happy face, as we find in the Ovis, Perek Aleph 15, should receive every person with a befitting fashion, and he permits himself to be hurt by them, but he does not reply. And he honors those even who are liked with him. They don't give him the honor he deserves. And the Zohar Chacham said in Shabbos 88b and Yuma 23a, those who accept their being put down and they don't get upset. They hear people saying shameful things about them, they don't answer. They do it from love, and they're having Yisurim. Again, he quotes the Shreiftim, what it says. Those who love Hashem are as strong as the sun coming out in its glory, and this is brought down in Hilchos Deis, Perek Hey Aloch Yud Gimel. However, there are places that a person is not permitted to forgive his honor. If they did it in public, he's forbidden to do so. If he does so, he's punished, because the person who's berating him or belittling him is belittling Torah. The Talmid Chacham has to be, at that point, very strong and be able to be cutting like a snake till the other person will ask for forgiveness. And this is found at the end of Hilchos Talmud Torah. And he does business with trust. He should not have a lot of time being found in the company or being hosted by those who are unlearned and where they dwell. He should not be seen continuously only doing Torah. That's what he should do, and clothed in his tzitzis and crowned with his tefillin. As Rabbi Yochanan said al atzmai, that you wouldn't go 4 amas without Torah and tefillin. Here the Rambam adds tzitzis. When it says in Hilchos tefillin, he said, Rav Talmido Yishlo Rabbeinu HaKodesh, that all those days we never saw him go 4 amas without Torah, without tzitzis, or without tefillin. And he should do all of his actions more than he is obligated to do. But it shouldn't be too much, that he shouldn't go more so, otherwise it looks strange. He's not somebody who is acting in a human fashion. And he should not sit as a hermit and separately, but he should do everything in a midpoint. Until it shall be found that everybody praises him, and they like him, U'mis'avim l'maiso, when they want to do his deeds, Harei Kiddush Hashem. He would have sanctified God's name. V'olav HaKosov Omer, regarding him, the pasuk says, "V'yomer li," and I was said to me, "Avdi Ato, you are my servant, Yisrael. You have the right to call yourself Yisrael. Asher b'cho espoil." That with you I pride myself. Hashem says this about those who act in this fashion.